2 weeks ago, I found a book in a crowded bookshop near the Ratto that swallowed me whole. My partner and I just finished date night and had a romantic walk home through Principe Real when we saw a bookstore that should have been closed by that time of night, but it was packed with people. So we pushed through the crowd to the tiny English section at the back, and there it was, The Magic Mountain by Thomas Mann. So I picked this book up because I saw it mentioned in the back of an Olga Tokarczuk novel, which I was just about to read. So I consider this a small detour. The plan was to read The Magic Mountain and then get back to my real reading plan with Olga Tokarczuk. Instead, I became entirely like Hans Castorp, the main character of The Magic Mountain. I totally forgot my plans. For 2 weeks, I left the house only for the gym and date nights. I canceled everything else. I didn't call anybody. I didn't answer any calls. I woke up writing about the mountain after spending my evenings reading about it. And what I found there wasn't just a story about a sanatorium in the Swiss Alps. It was a warning about healing as its own kind of trap. So a basic gist of the story goes like this. Hans goes to visit his sick cousin in the mountain for 3 weeks. Instead, he stays for 7 years. And the sanatorium is so seductive. It's rest and reflection, this horizontal living. It's la dolce vita. Everyone there is convalescing, suspended from the demands of the world below. They have their prescribed walks and their balcony rest cures, their luxurious meals and their fresh air routines. All time seems to dissolve here. The world they came from before becomes kind of abstract and completely unreal. There's this amazing part of the book in which Hans's uncle visits and then he has to flee almost immediately. He realizes that if he stays too long, that returning to normal life will become impossible. He would find everything down below at the bottom of the mountain just wrong and out of place. Going to his office would seem unnatural compared to lounging while wrapped in furs on the balcony. There's a Wittgenstein line that I think about often, which is, "The limits of my language are the limits of my world." What I see here, though, is that the scope of your language is the scope of your world. Once you learn the vocabulary of healing and you speak it fluently, then the vocabulary of busyness becomes almost intolerable. It becomes a foreign language that you just can't understand anymore, the way that you'd understand native Urguk. And I know this intimately. When I got divorced, I went on a 3-year sabbatical. 3 years. Not like Hans' 7, but still, that's a lot. There was no work. There was no thinking about my life as an influencer. There was no speaking with my audience. It was just hours on meditating on esoteric shit and spirituality and non-duality. Right at the end of my sabbatical, I would walk to Jardim de Graça with my blanket and my cushion, and I would set up under a tree and I would meditate. There was another man who was always there when I arrived, and he was sitting under another tree, and he would be there when I left an hour later, and he'd still be there when I'd return with my dog hours after that. This guy was clearly serious about his practice, and so I asked him about it. We talked about awareness and where do we direct it, and then I tried to talk with him about non-duality, but he just wasn't having it. And why not? Because non-duality is the key to getting rid of your suffering. He agreed, and he warned me, though, that everyone that he knew that got deep into non-duality found themselves at a bad place. They just couldn't find jobs and couldn't hold careers. They lost themselves to it entirely. I stopped my non-dual practice soon after that because he was right. I was completely losing touch with the world, as you could tell if you saw my last video on the Ichi Kimchi channel, because my God, that was just so weird. But I'm not financially set for life like Hans. I can't afford to just relax and meditate forever. I know that if you work too hard, you'll burn out, but I also know that if you heal too hard, you'll fade out. Or in other words, as somebody left in one of the comments before, go woke, go broke. I mean, they're right. And so this pull towards healing versus working is really personified in the two most captivating characters in the book, Settembrini and Naphta. Now, these two are at complete odds with each other. Settembrini speaks for the Enlightenment project, for reason and for progress and the individual liberated through education. He constantly calls Hans the engineer as a reminder of who he was supposed to be in the world below. Settembrini is this classical liberalism, this humanism confident in its own progress. And Naphta just completely dismantles him, but not through superior logic, but equally matched logic just aimed in the opposite direction. He speaks for the Hermetic tradition, for the renunciation of ego. Where Settembrini has this grandiose narcissism of the modernist project, Naphta brings the vulnerable narcissism of illness, of scathing irony, and of endless cynicism. Just listen to him tear into Settembrini here. He says, "Your humanity is nothing but a tail end, a stale classical survival. Our revolution is coming, and we sow the seeds of doubt deeper than the most up-to-date free thought has ever dreamed." Absolutely brutal. This is the postmodern distrust of grand narratives. And so, get in the car, losers. We dismantle structures now. We focus on trauma, on disability, and injustice. We eat the rich. Billionaires are totally evil. We don't speak the language of growth anymore, only the language of healing. And yet Mann does something really brilliant here. He gives both characters enough knowledge and rhetorical power so that neither really overwhelms the other. Both clearly point out contradictions in each other's arguments. No side wins with words alone. The main character, Hans, is at first overpowered by these verbal magicians, but eventually he recognizes how the rabbit is pulled from the hat, and he's no longer duped by either. Instead, he's just entertained, because everything is logical and reasonable if you have enough words and patience for it. And so Hans makes his breakthrough alone. Lost in a blizzard, near death and hallucinating, he arrives at something beyond this endless debate. He chooses neither Settembrini's optimistic individualism, nor does he choose Naphta's dissolution into the collective. He finds this kind of third position, the middle way. It's not a synthesis that resolves their contradiction, but a way of kind of holding both without being captured by either. This is what Metamodernism offers. There's no correct answer between modern heroism and postmodern victimhood, between full agency and complete surrender. Both positions, pushed to their logical extremes, just dissolve into language games. And you can play these games forever, but while you play, people around you will still suffer, die, and need company. And so Hans responds by turning towards community. He can't save the world, but he can help those around him. When his peers talk about real service, which is military duty or civilizational projects, then Hans visits the dying in the sanatorium. He sits with them. He brings them flowers. He's human to them while everyone else ignores them. This, for some reason, is dismissed as not serious, but I think is the only move that doesn't require winning an argument first. What Hans retreats to is the village. It's that pre-modern form of community that modernism abandoned by moving to cities and postmodernism critiques as being outdated and traumatic, without either of those sides offering fulfilling alternatives. I'm trying and I'm hoping to build this kind of alternative for myself here in Lisbon. My circle here is filled with what I call refugees of capitalism. There are people who are burnt out from their careers overseas that completely wrung them dry. And so they come to Portugal to heal through kirtans and cacao, through Pilates and psychedelics, through sharing circles and yoga. The sanatorium energy is everywhere. And so I try to bring bone broth to my community. I host and I participate in book clubs. I'm looking for ways to participate more in this attempt to make a village in an anonymous city. But there's also a tension here. How do you honor the need for healing without adopting its vocabulary so thoroughly that you can't function? How do you build without ignoring what the deconstructors correctly identified? How do you form community without pretending that you found the answer that the philosophers have missed? Mann suggests something through the character of Peeperkorn, whose name I love. I'm not sure if that's how you pronounce it, but I call him Peeperkorn. He's this charismatic character who could barely complete a sentence, but he draws everybody to him. And the message here is that nobody cares about your philosophy if you're not interesting. Most people don't want to work hard, and they don't want to heal hard either. Most people just kind of want to be fat, drunk, and happy. And so the village that you want starts with you showing up. First for yourself, by living in a body that you want to be in. And then for others, by being a body that they want to be around. Then the philosophy can happen, or not. But it happens among people who have already chosen each other, who are holding space, and who genuinely want to meet each other's needs. One of my favorite writers during my sabbatical was Jack Kornfield, and my favorite phrase of his is this: after the Enlightenment, the laundry. Because there's no perfect cure. Healing can become its own trap. You could always journal deeper. You could always optimize your sleep a little bit more. You could process yet another trauma. Hans's cousin leaves before he's healed because he can't wait forever. And Hans, in the end, also leaves and he goes to war. After years in the mountain, lost in time, lost in debate, and lost in the horizontal life, he loses himself into madness. The descent is the whole point. It's the village and the bone broth, the book club, the date night and the candlelit restaurant. It's the service that isn't real service because it doesn't serve the world. What it is just to show up, just make something warm for the people in front of you. So it took me a few days to write and record this, and since then I have finished reading the Empusium, and I just finished it last night, in fact. It's so good. It's really good. And it's very rewarding to read right after the Magic Mountain. There's so many Easter eggs in here. I didn't think I'd experience Easter eggs in a book, but it's amazing. In the meanwhile, I also lost myself in building this thing that I call a performative reading app. So I've planned out all the books that I'm going to read for the next few months, all the way up until July, I think. And I've calculated how long it will take for me to get to each book based on how many words I read per day. Yeah. It's super nerdy, I know. So check it out if you're interested at simonsbookclub.org, though I think I'm going to change the name of it soon. And if you want me to build something like this for you, then join the waitlist so I could send you the updates as soon as it's ready to go live for others. That's the whole video. Thanks for watching.